Hello, I'm Harvey, host of Franchising Brand Stories.
And I'm Angie, founder and CEO of Monkey Music.
And welcome to Franchising Brand Stories. This is the show where we get under the hat of some of the top brands in the UK and in the world. And what is this show about? This show, as you can tell by the title, is about stories. It's about understanding what's behind some of these brands that we know really well. And if you're a franchisee or if you're looking to invest in a franchise business, then this needs to be part of your due diligence because it's more than what's written on a brochure. This is a live format. If you are listening on July 18th at 5:15 for about 45 minutes, it's live. And we really encourage you to get involved, ask any questions where you can, and it'd be great to have you here live. And of course, if you're watching in the future, then this can also be part of you trying to understand these wonderful brands and the stories behind them. So I encourage you to get involved, and we love that. If you have just joined us today, this is Franchising Brand Stories, and today we are hearing the story behind Monkey Music with the lovely Angie Coates. And before I introduce you to Angie, I would like to read a little piece that's been written for me here. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up for an inspiring episode today. We are thrilled to welcome a visionary in the world of early childhood education and a dynamic force in the music industry. Our guest has transformed the way we introduce children to the magical world of music, fostering creativity and joy in little ones across the globe. She's a trailblazer, an innovator, a true entrepreneur. In 1993, she founded Monkey Music, a groundbreaking program that has since grown into a beloved institution, helping thousands of young children discover their love for music through fun and engaging classes. Her dedication and passion have earned her numerous accolades, and today she is here to share her incredible journey with us. So, Angie, first of all, welcome to Franchising Brand Stories. It's lovely to have you here.
Thanks. Thank you for that lovely introduction, Harvey. And hi, everybody. It's very warm here in the UK, but we're raring to go and looking forward to meeting everyone.
Fantastic. I would like to start, because it's always traditional to start with chapter one. And that's really understanding what is Monkey Music. For people who don't know, give us a brief idea what Monkey Music is while I put up a few of these lovely people that have joined us early on today.
Monkey Music is a 5-stage musical curricula that I wrote over 30 years ago now for children from the age of newborn right the way through to when they start school. It's a 5-stage progressive curricula, and we work with the parents or the carers at class who accompany their children to our age-specific classes on a weekly basis.
Fantastic. And as a business, where are you at now in terms of sort of number of franchisees, size of the business, regions you're currently operating in?
So we have, in the UK, we have 43 franchise areas. We call them territories, owned by around 40 franchisees. A couple of our franchisees are multi-territory franchisees. And we are mainly the business started in London back in 1993. So London is the place, I think everybody in London with a little one probably has heard about Monkey Music or got some connection with Monkey Music through their family or friends. And we grew initially organically from London across the UK. So we are very fairly densely represented in the southeast of the UK and the southwest, and we move up the north. We've got then a bit of a gap in the north, unfortunately, that I'd love to share the joy of Monkey Music with. And then we are in Scotland as well. So a spread. Over the years, we've grown mainly organically, although more recently, we've been putting together a strategy to be a little bit more proactive with our marketing.
Fantastic. Let's have a before we start getting into today's story. Let's have a look and recognise a few people that have joined us live, because it's lovely to have people here live. So we've got the ever wise Simon Wise. Great to have you here, Simon. We've got Johnny Joseph joined us from Los Angeles, from a not rainy and not cold Los Angeles, I bet. We have the wonderful Kurt Edwards from Sky AdSmart, and strangely, Kurt, I've got your logo right up there at the moment, so it's fantastic to have you here, Kurt. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on Angie's story today as we progress. Great to have you here. And we've got the lovely Jason Caber from SEO Samba, and we all know Jason very well. Great to have you here, Jason. We've got Tim Morris, a big name in the franchise world. Good afternoon, everyone. Great to be here. Fantastic to be spending our UK day of summer with you all. It probably is one day. And we have fellow franchisor. It's Claire from Tappy Toes, and she's interested to hear your story. Well, so are we all. And we have one final person to recognize, and that's my good friend Kelly from Arizona. So great to have you here, Kelly. Let's if you have just joined us today, this is Franchising Brand Stories, and today we are talking to Angie Cope of Music, and we're hearing her story. So with that in mind, I'd like to let's get to the story. Let's get to the main part. I'd like to put you in a time machine now and send you back in time, right to the inspiration, and when you came up with the idea of Monkey Music. So where and when did it all start for you?
So I was living in London just over 30 years ago now. I had trained as a classical musician at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama, and was trying to make my merry way as a musician. I was an oboist. Well, I am an oboist. I wouldn't say that in professional terms anymore, but I trained as an oboist, trained as a pianist, and I was living in London, enjoying an early career performing with some of the London orchestras and trying to make a living as a musician. In those days, the term was as a freelance musician. I mean, most musicians, they still are actually, but were self-employed in those days. So I was having a whale of a time. It was a challenge because the work as a musician is often sporadic. But I was enjoying the challenge of being a musician and filling in the time that I wasn't working with some teaching at a London school, and enjoying that immensely, especially the younger children that I taught, the preschool children in the nursery. Now, I then got married quite young, and I fell pregnant with my first child, and I realized I had a bit of a juggling act on my hands. How was I going to do all of that and be a mum? And I wanted to be the kind of mum who was around for my little one. I didn't want to be trying to do what a lot of my colleagues and friends were doing as musicians, which is meeting family members on motorway service stations and handing over children for the evening while they headed up to Hull to perform with Shirley Bassey or whoever it was. I wanted to be there, and I wanted to make sure that my life was how I wanted it to be on a more regular basis for her. So while I was trying to figure out how to do that, I also decided that I was really enjoying the teaching side of my music, and started to try out some of my own ideas with the children in the nursery school that I was working in, and realized that actually I absolutely adored bringing music alive for very young children, seeing how they responded to music, seeing how music supported their natural development with the language skills they were developing and all of that. So I decided that there was a bit of a gap in the market. I'd looked for music classes locally to go to with my own little baby. There weren't any. So I thought, well, I'm going to have to do something about this, and it might just be an opportunity to shake things up a little bit in my own life and do something different now that I'm a mum and I want to do something for my family.
Fantastic. It's always lovely to hear the origins and that, and it's clearly a real passion for you, and fascinating to hear that you're an oboist.
Oboist.
Oboe.
An oboist. An oboist. Yes.
One's a shape, isn't it? No, it's fascinating, and of course it's so important. You were looking for a work-life balance there
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
your own life at the beginning, and of course. A lot of people, if you're watching today and you're looking at investing in a business, one of your key drivers might well be trying to establish a better work-life balance, of course.
Yeah.
Is that something that is still instilled into the business after it driving your own life and balance? Is it something that you still like to offer people, that work-life balance?
Very much, actually, Harvey. So at the very, very heart of Monkey Music, I think because of my own very genuine reasons for starting the business, I was able to work with our lawyers way back. And I was very naive in those days, considering I was a musician, not at all business. I wouldn't have said that I was a business owner in those days at all. I wouldn't have, put business and music in one breath. I do now. But I was able to work with my lawyers to be able to create a contract that would fit somebody just like me, I guess, because that was important. And I think I'd underestimated in those days exactly what I was doing. I hadn't realized that I was doing that. And actually, the contract that we have with our franchisees now is obviously updated and reviewed regularly. But at the heart is the opportunity for our franchisees to work flexible working hours. It's a full-time commitment at Monkey Music, but we offer the opportunity for our franchisees to work very hard, but with very flexible hours.
Really important. It's also important to recognize that you do have to work hard as a franchisee. It's as much as you're given the tools to do the job, you have to work hard to make those tools right. If you're given a hammer, it's not going to hammer the nails in itself, is it? So you know the right tool for the job. That's fascinating. Let's have a little look here because we might have some questions. We've got a question here let's take one from Simon, then we might go to one from Tim and one from Jason. So let's start with one from Simon. Simon's put, what skills and experience do franchisees need to succeed in your franchise? Do they need to be able to play a musical instrument, or is it more about their communication and how they can communicate things with children and help children enjoy music?
So we have non-teaching and teaching franchisees. So you do not have to be a franchise owner at Monkey Music and teach our classes. In fact, I would say the non-teaching franchisees are probably the ones that grow more quickly because they have the time. They are often from business backgrounds themselves, and they have also operational backgrounds. They come into the business as business owners. They see an opportunity to grow a previous existing franchise area or a new area, and they will create a business plan that allows them to grow their business pretty quickly. If we have franchisees who join us who are teaching franchisees, like I was to start with, those franchisees are supported by us in a slightly different way. The growth of their business tends to not be so quick, but it tends to be a little bit deeper. And the connection with their customers tends to be a little bit more immediate, which also has its pros and cons, isn't it? Which way around you do it. But certainly, I think it's changed from the early days where I used to bearing in mind I was from a musical background, most of my friends and colleagues were musicians or actresses. I brought a lot of people with me in the early part of my journey from those sorts of backgrounds, creative backgrounds. A lot of those people are still with us. They now have learned how to run a business in the same way that I have. But I would say now, over the last 4 or 5 years, we're attracting people with more operational backgrounds, more business type of backgrounds that are a little bit more dynamic with their way they want to grow their business. So it's a bit of both. For me, it's all about people wanting to grow, wanting to succeed, and wanting to do what we do in their local community, and that drive and ambition.
No, that's fantastic. I mean, you say they're the local community. How is what you're doing affecting communities at large? Is it quite an important thing for a community to have? It's an interesting and great expression that you use there.
Yeah, and that's one we've used more since COVID. It's interesting actually. I think again, when you are a mum or a new parent to an area, especially now, I think that people spending a lot of time on screens or working from home, people really want to belong to their local community, and we offer them a way to do that, either as a franchise owner or as a customer coming to our classes. So that has become even more integral to who we are. We are somebody and something that exists at the heart of a local community.
That's fantastic, and you're right. I mean, I've heard this a lot, and it's very true with a franchise business. There are often three tiers of changing people's lives and affecting people in a positive way. As a business, as an entity, you're doing it with your franchisees, you can do it, and with the people that are the customer base for your franchisees. Again, you're improving their lives. And music is really evocative. It's incredibly evocative. It's quite a powerful thing, isn't it? If you hear a tune that you haven't heard since perhaps you were a child, it takes you right back there, doesn't it? It's like smells and things.
And I think also because we offer something that people feel safe in our classes, because they may not know anyone in the class, but they come along with their little one, their child or their grandchild or their neighbour's daughter or son, and they belong to a shared activity, but they don't have to organise it or initiate it. And I think that's very powerful too. You can belong to something, and also you have your little one with you, and everyone loves a little bit of a comfort blanket, I think. So you're going somewhere together. And actually, Harvey, what you just said then, our strapline is sharing precious time together. And that's because it's, you picked up very clearly on that relationship between everybody in the group setting, everybody at head office with the franchisees with their teachers, all of that family is sharing that precious moment and that precious time together, making music.
I think it's so powerful, and it clearly comes across from what you're saying, and time is precious, and time with your loved ones, and and enjoying time with your colleagues is really precious. And I think time is so relevant in franchising, because it's part, if you're watching this as a prospective franchisee, part of what you're buying is time, because you've spent decades setting up, nurturing, making mistakes, I'm sure, until you've got to a business that has a model that can be scalable via franchising, and that you can offer that out to your franchisees. Now, a lot of passionate entrepreneurs can do it, but there's lots of hurdles and there's lots of time, and you're buying that time as well. But I love that, sharing precious time. It's a beautiful sentiment, and clearly something that lives throughout your business. Let's have a little look. We've got a few other comments. I've kept that one up from Jason as well, because it related very much to Simon's question about skills and experience franchisees need. And he put there, who are the top franchise candidates, musicians, business operators? Well, we covered that off pretty well, I think, in that. So it's really interesting to hear, because I think there could be a presumption that you have to be a very talented musician, or you have to be a very skilled business operator, and it's going to sit somewhere in between the two. That passion perhaps for music and some business acumen, and you can add in some of those things into the mix and fill those gaps perhaps. Let's have a look at a lovely question here from the wonderful Kurt from Sky. And Kurt has put, the children's franchise sector seems to have gathered some real momentum in recent years. What do you think is driving that? I think that's really true. I think it's one of the biggest sort of growing sectors. Do you think there's a change in demographic, people wanting to spend more precious time, or do you think there are other driving factors behind that?
I think I was talking to Pip at the BFA about this the other day, because obviously the BFA have kind of come on board to really support the industry. I think it's what I was doing 30 years ago. You know, people seeking change in their lives, having more information around what you can do to run your own business, having opportunities in their local areas, trusting their own talents and skills. I think the generations coming through now and opening businesses, they're more confident, they've got more information at their fingertips. I think people are giving it a go, and I think we're seeing a lot of businesses coming into the children's franchise sector, that's for sure. And it's a good thing. I mean, if Monkey Music can't be there, somebody else can be, and it brings back to the basics of bringing people together in a local community, more people working from home. I think being with their children a little bit earlier in the day than they used to be, or taking some time out at lunchtime to go somewhere with their children, or, there's maybe more demand for that kind of thing. But it's a good thing. It's a good thing. We should be supporting our children in their early years in that way.
Absolutely. And I think you're right. I think, the whole way we work has become a little bit more flexible and a little bit more integrated with our family life. And, people are, even in employment, people are seeking things like hybrid roles, and that's becoming much more commonplace. And I think within business ownership, people are seeking things that allows the best of both worlds to spend time with family. And if you've got young children, and if you've got if you're investing into a business that children are at the heart and are the key of that, then it's easier to integrate that into your young family's life, perhaps. I'm going to bring up a little comment here from Simon, because it's a really nice one. I want to bring it up. He's put, my son met his best friend when he was a toddler at Monkey Music in North London, and they have grown up together, sharing a bond of true friendship and love of music together. Thank you. I mean, that's a really powerful thing. That we talked before about the fact that the franchise is changing lives for the franchisees and for the customers. And look, here's a real life story of it changing the lives of two young people who have bonded over a shared love of music. And I guess that brings me on to another question, which I always, it's my favorite bit. I always love asking this question, and I can't wait to hear the answer. But before we do that, if you have just joined us, this is the final episode of Season 2 of Franchising Brand Stories. And today we are hearing what's under the hat of Monkey Music with the lovely Angie Coates. If you have just joined us, you can view this episode from the beginning on our LinkedIn and our YouTube channels, and visit our website. I'll put a QR code up for that as well in a moment. But it's great to have you with us, and it brings me on to a question I'd love to ask. I mean, we've talked here, and we've got a wonderful example of a life-changing story. You must have, over the years and the people that you've met, experienced some wonderful stories and some real life-changing moments. I mean, are there any that sort of stick out in your mind more than others?
That's an interesting question. First of all, Simon, thank you for sharing that lovely feedback. And before I answer that, Kurt, actually, I was just another little anecdote. And when you've been around as long as I have, it's lovely to have these stories, and they are a comfort, actually, as a founder. When times are tough in the business, having these little stories and remembering the reason that you started it all and what it's brought to you personally, everyone that you've shared it with, it does make a difference, because as a founder you have those down times, and a CEO. But I have, my oldest daughter is now 32. I started the business obviously for her as a baby, and she's now grown up in London, got a friendship group in London, and one of her best friends was moving out of London down to got married last year, moved down to Wales to develop in Morgan. And I just happened to be talking to Millie, my daughter, and saying, gosh, you know, Gabby's off to Wales. That's a big move. Yes, she's very worried about it. She got a new baby. Anyway, went down to Wales, had a baby about 3 months ago, and then rung Millie in tears saying, you know, I'm really missing the friendship group from London, not settling in, can't make any friends and everything. And then Millie was telling me all of this. And then Millie said, she rang me a couple of days ago, Millie, and she said, you never guess what, Mummy, I've had a chat to Gabby, who's down in Bed of Glamorgan. She rang me up very excited because she joined this baby group and she's met these amazing friends. And she told me I wouldn't have heard of it, but it's something called Monkey Music. And she's got loads of friends now. She's loving her new life. And, you know, she's just bought a load of Monkey Music merchandise for her son's third birthday. So, I mean, I'm telling you that because those are the kinds of things that are great. When you've been around as long as I have, it does go around and come around. So starting a business, it's, you know, it's tricky. You haven't got those kind of stories to fall back on, but I'm glad I have. And thanks, Simon, for sharing that one about your little boy as well.
Yeah, I love that. Again, it's another example, isn't it, of a community thing, you know, a friendship group. You know, it's not just changing the life of the person that went to live in a, you know, in a town that's unfamiliar and, you know, all of the scary stuff when you have to go and do that. That whole friendship group was changed with that. You know, and clubs, you know, I think back to when I was young and my only outing into music was trying to learn the keyboards with my father, and I wasn't very good at it. So, but I remember it fondly, and it was a lovely thing to do with my dad. And you know, I remember that experience of it. You know, whether I was good at playing that or not. I can do the first bit of Fur Release as well. So not the whole thing. That's fantastic. I mean, what was it in those early days that encouraged you to use franchising as your as the way you were going to scale that business? You know, because franchising is a fantastic way to do it, and it allows you to have that big family of people that have invested in your business with you. But what was it that appealed to you?
That's an interesting question. I was very lucky actually, because I was growing the business. I'd left my role as a teacher, and I was growing Monkey Music, teaching and writing the curriculum, teaching the classes that in my local area, bringing friends on to teach the classes, and it got too big like that. Monkey Music, the demand in London was absolutely huge, and I think I had about 500 children I was teaching, just me, in any 1 week, every day, all day, with, you know, my friends looking after the baby and all the rest of it. It was a bit of a juggle. So I needed to bring it back in again. And my brother is a lawyer and very different to me, actually. And I remember saying to him really clearly, this is out of control now. I need contracts for my friends who are working with me. I need to bring it all in. And he said to me really calmly, I'll never forget him. He said, you should franchise it. And I remember just thinking, what's franchising? What does he mean? Anyway, it was back in 1998 I franchised the company. So I started the class in 93, wrote the curricula as the children were growing through it, having more children and revising it as we went. And then franchised in 98, and then had the teachers that were teaching for me in those early days became my first franchisees. So then I piloted the franchise model on the teachers still around the South Circular in London. So that's how it kind of began. But I was lucky, you know, that he was there, my brother. And actually, he then joined the company as my operations director. And we grew it together. Now, he looking back, he was very patient with me because I was very different to him and not really understanding how incredibly grateful I would be to him one day for setting these incredibly stringent foundations to the company. They are rock solid, the foundations of Monkey Music, because I had that very, very early partner in the business who understood.
You realise he's going to play that back to you now.
But you know, I was lucky, and I grew to respect him. You know, and so that's why I think we've got the two halves of Monkey Music. We've got the creative side and the original curricula and the brand and the innovation and the love of the product and the service. that's come from my kind of heart, I guess. And then we've got the kind of very clear legislation operational side to the company that's grown up alongside, and you need both.
Yes.
So,
yeah. It's great to hear you talk about the importance of that strong foundation, because I think sometimes when you're creative, you've got all of that passion, all of that heart, and you love what's happening. But if that's not built on a strong foundation, it can sometimes fall aside. But it's fantastic that you did have that support and were able to create that strong foundation. No, I love it. I'm interested actually. I'm interested in the picture behind you with the orange things being thrown in the air.
monkeys.
Oh, is that monkeys? Excellent.
These are monkey.
Look, there he is.
So they're the franchisees at some conference a few years ago. That's a classic. We take that picture every year with the network.
It reminds me because my son has just graduated from university, and
the hats.
Our other son is graduating next week. So yes, it's a familiar looking scene. But I like. So were they graduating franchisees there?
Yes.
Giving you an idea there. Let's a question I've got as well. We talk about the stories. I mean, again, you meet different characters, don't you, when you're taking this journey and talking to all these wonderful people. Are there any characters that stick out in your mind, and any individuals, and the journey and the challenge they went on?
Gosh, what franchisees?
Anybody that you've met within the scope of your business over the years?
Yeah, I think, well, it's a privilege, isn't it? Working, I'm sure everyone on the call who works with people closely, it's a privilege to work so closely with people. And as a head office support team, you try and get to know your franchise network and your franchisees quite well, because you want them to inject their own personalities and their own strengths into the business. So you do get to, it's quite a unique relationship that a franchisor has with a franchisee. And certainly for us, we want our franchisees to be themselves and represent the brand and be ambassadors of the brand, but we want them to claim it for themselves on a local level. So it's really, we've met loads of people. Our franchisees are quite a diverse mix of amazing personalities, and when we have new franchisees coming through, part of our recruitment process is to get that potential franchisee, that prospect, talking to as many other franchisees in our network as possible. And what we often do is we match make a couple of conversations with people. They don't know this, but this is what we do. We kind of identify the type of person they might be, get them talking to people that like them, and then we get them talking to people who are quite different to them and have got bring different, so that they can begin to understand that it is a family at Monkey Music. So, and we are all different, but the wonderful thing is with what we do is that we all share this passion for music and children and bringing people together through making music. So that's a very obvious glue.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm bringing up a question here from Simon, and we've begun to answer this one actually. But for any potential franchisees watching, what does the franchisee prospect journey look like with Monkey Music, and what can they expect? You touched on it there a little bit, that they're going to get to meet some other franchisees. But, if you are a potential franchisee and you're listening, what's going to be that journey from making that call to starting to partner with you guys?
Well, I guess the first thing to say is it's not quick. It's quite thorough. We are very, very conscious that people are making life-changing decisions joining our business and joining Monkey Music. They are always at crossroads in their lives, people that come to and talk to us. And again, getting to know those people, making sure they're making the right decisions for them for the long term. We're not in it for the short term with our franchisees. We want them to join us and to grow. So it's about getting to know us. We have a business development manager at Monkey Music who will spend a long time talking to them before they even get to me. They then will apply for a franchise, I'll have a Zoom with that potential franchisee. If we want to go forwards, they're then introduced to other members of the network, people that perhaps they know or they've heard about, or we ask them to look on the website and identify people they want to talk to. Our franchise network are very good at talking to new potential franchisees coming through. We then ask them to present a business plan. We send out a template business plan. New franchisees come forwards and they present that to the team here at Monkey Music. It's quite a formal meeting. It's about 4 or 5 hours long. We have a head of commercial affairs, Victoria Whittard, who will take people through the contract and all the obligations around that. And then, and only after that, will we take them forwards to the idea of making a deposit on their commitment fee to the area that we're looking for, and then we'll take them forwards to training. And the training is staged. There's some pre-recorded training, there's some 5 days face-to-face, and there's some teacher training. So it's very gradual. A lot of the time, our franchisees take quite a while to come through. They're making very early inquiries. They're aware that there's a change of foot for them in their lives, and they may disappear for a year and come back because they've been speaking to us, and then they've been thinking about it, and then the time is right a little bit later on. So sometimes it's not immediate. Sometimes we have people we're talking to for a year or 18 months before they come through. So yeah, a lot of people are customers who come to classes and who will know the brand, and I'm always very happy to hear that because they're already happy customers. So they're coming for the right reason, or they know someone who does. So that's the way we sort of grow as well.
That's really interesting, actually. That some of the customers or the parents, I suppose, or whoever's bringing the children to the classes, sometimes then become a franchisee. I mean, that's lovely to hear, really, isn't it?
A lot of the time.
Yeah, the message and everything is going right the way through the business, right to someone who's enjoying the experience enough to want to be involved in that extent. I also loved what you said there about the fact that people are at a crossroads, and what do you mean by that? I get it. I think people are, but elaborate a little bit more on what type of crossroads people generally are at. Is it sort of sticking with the music industry that they're in, or
I think it's less so more of that, which is surprising, isn't it? I think it's less of that. It's more people that have perhaps grown up and gone into a career, perhaps because they thought they should. Maybe they've gone into law. We've just had a lawyer, a family lawyer, join us as a franchisee. Funnily enough, she was an Oberst as well at Southampton University. But she went into law and then has done a whole life in law, and has got to the stage where both her children are now at school, and she can now revisit what she really loves, which is her music. And so she's now joined us as a new franchise owner. So I think some of our franchisees go into other careers, and then they get to a stage when they can either afford to or want to. They can't carry on doing what they're doing, can't live in denial anymore about where their real love lies for their careers. They come back to us that way.
Yeah, I wrote that down, what she really loves. I think passion is so important when you're choosing your path in life. I have lots of young adults as children now, and they're doing exactly that, and they're looking at what their passions are and what they really enjoy doing. We have to spend a lot of time doing what we do for a living, so make it something that you love and that you're passionate about, because that passion can drive you through the good and the more challenging times. I mean, do you think that passion can do that? Do you think it's that much of a driver?
Absolutely. I think, and I think people are more honest about that now. I think people are definitely more honest, and if you've got that passion for something and that interest, that genuine connection with people, why not make that what you do for your career? I think people are, and certainly listening to you talk about your children, my adult children now, my youngest is now 18, my oldest is 32. They are very open about finding a career that doing something they love, which I'm not so sure was the same. I mean, I was very fortunate. I did do something I loved. It was music, but I've got lots of friends who did something that they're now wishing they hadn't, Not to sound negative, but or wishing that they perhaps had chosen a different path. And I think nowadays maybe we bring our children up differently. We are much more encouraging around being honest about thriving on what
you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. And I think hopefully the education system will change towards and just encouraging passions, because, that's what you're doing. If people have got a passion for music and a shared love of music, or an introduction to music as well, it can come through. I also like the fact that you mentioned there that if anybody is watching, again, looking to invest, and they're thinking, well, how long is this going to take to go through the process? It's a long process. It's something that can't be rushed. It's a journey of trust as well. You mentioned there getting to know you, getting to know the business, you getting to know them. And it's important to take your time with that, I think.
And we will say if we don't think somebody is right for us, or that it's right for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's important as well to be able to say that. It's important to be able to say when something is right or something is wrong, and it gives integrity on all parts. So it's great to hear you say that. You mentioned a little bit there that that you were in London, the southeast, and there were areas that you were looking at growing into, and you also mentioned the fact that your business is separated out into regions. If there are people listening from different parts of the country, are there some particular areas of interest at the moment in terms of regions?
We are proactively looking for people in the sort of mid and north of the country, around so Manchester, Birmingham, Liverpool, Newcastle, those sorts of areas that we can start expanding out from. We have a fantastic new franchise in Edinburgh, owned by two twin sisters, actually, who are both early years teachers and have taken that decision to do something different with their lives. It's lovely to be up in Edinburgh. It's moving really quickly up there. So I've got no doubt at all it would move quickly. It's purely organic, having grown the way we have. So I would love to grow the brand further north and further towards the southwest.
Fantastic. Well, if you're listening in the north or the middle bit or the southwest, then is that what it's called? The middle bit? I think it's the middle bit. And it's again, it's great to to hear a story. Two sisters involved in a business together. That could sometimes be challenging, but it's great to to hear a success story and an expansion into that new area as well. Anyway, if you have just joined us today, this is Franchising Brand Stories, and it's the last episode of season 2. And today we heard the story of Monkey Music with Angie Coates. So if you have just joined us, well, you're late, aren't you? But you can capture this episode, and it will be coming out to you in all sorts of other lovely ways over the coming weeks. So please look out for that. We are, as I say, starting to draw towards the end now. I'm going to ask you one more question before we move on to chapter 3. Do you discuss sort of exit strategies and the kind of conclusion to a franchise journey at that beginning stage? Is that sort of part of it, what somebody wants in the long term?
Absolutely. I think the other thing that we do is often identify that people, if you're working in your life with a young family and you're the kind of person who gives 150% to your work, I think you get to a stage when you have your family that you want to be working a little bit more for yourself and keeping a little bit of that energy back and that little bit so actually what we do is we start to have that conversation with our franchise right the way from the beginning, that they're creating an asset to sell at a later date. So it is about the business now and in the medium and the long term, but it's also the long term. When you want to sell, you've grown something that you can then benefit from. So, and then it becomes a conversation you keep revisiting each year. How's it going? How are you growing? Where's it going? So I think it's quite a healthy conversation to have from the get-go, really.
I agree. I agree. I mean, what's the sort of typical life cycle of a franchisee in your business? You know, before they, you know, move on to other exciting projects. You know, is it sort of 5, 10, 15 years? Where does it sort
So
of
we
sit?
have a 5-year contract with our franchisees. That aside, I knew you'd ask me this question, so I looked. We've got some franchisees who have been with us for 25 years,
Wow.
some who, you know, have been with us for a couple of months. But I would say there's a middle ground. You know, I think a lot of our franchisees renew twice, so they go into 10, 11 years, and then they'll think of their exit strategy. Sometimes they'll think of their exit strategy around about 7 or 8 years. It tends to be 7, 8 or 12, 13, I think. And I think that's purely, if you think of a family or a life cycle of a person, it's a sort of 7-year, isn't it? And I think that's quite a natural. And it also depends when they joined us, at what stage of their lives, how long they then stay.
That's yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah,
So
people have different things going on in their lives, don't they? Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
No, that's fantastic. Look, we've now come to the end of chapter 2, and we're going to start chapter 3. And this is where we get our franchising brand stories exclusive. Because this is where we now talk about what's happening in the future and what's next for Monkey Music. So this is where you give us the exclusive. What's coming up?
There's always something happening at Monkey Music. There's always something happening, and I think that's what I love about running a business. Actually, the innovation and working with people who can, you know, franchisees are great because they've always got ideas too. So it's a melting pot of what's happening next. I think it's about priorities, isn't it? I think what we're doing at the moment is we're trying to create value for money at our classes, you know, to create flexibility, to sort of reflect this generation that's coming through by offering something. And when I look back, I used to do half an hour on the dot, change over after half an hour between classes, and that was it. Everyone used to go home. Now we've got a club that they can go into to carry on making monkey music at home if they're members of our classes. We've got workshops, all kinds of ongoing opportunities. They can have catch-up classes, they miss one, they can swap their classes. I think it's about making monkey music accessible all the time, you know, and making sure that it fits for your lifestyle as well, you know, and it's not just that one time in the week, and creating the brand a little bit more holistically in that way.
Yeah, I think you're right. You know, we talked earlier about the flexibility in terms of giving people a great work-life balance or achieving, hopefully, the balance that they're looking for. You know, that's just exactly the same when you're trying to fit in all of these clubs and all of these things that are, you know, enjoyable for your children to go to and for you to go to with them. But you need that flexibility as people's lives are changing and adapting. Well, look, we have now come to the end. It was a fascinating conversation and a wonderful story to hear. So thank you so much for sharing that. Before we sort of go on to a few admin bits and what's coming up for our show, is there anything that you would like to leave people with today about the business as we conclude today, if somebody's watching?
I would just say about Monkey Music, or anything really, just about the franchising industry is a very vibrant, exciting place to be. Everyone seems to love what they do. I would encourage you to get involved with that. Have a look around. If you're a franchisee looking for an opportunity, have a look at lots of different franchises. As you can say, it's quite personal. If you've got a founder at the heart of the business, it's going to be still quite personal. As well, even more so. So I would say it's a great place to be, and headed up now by Pip at the BFA. You know, I would get involved.
Fantastic. And talking of getting involved, there is a lovely QR code on the screen right now, and that's going to take you rather conveniently to Monkey Music's franchise page. So please scan that if you're watching, and that will, I'm sure, answer all of the questions you've got. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody who has been here today. It's been a great conversation. Apologies if we didn't get around to all of your questions. It's just we run out of time sometimes. But thank you for being here. It's you who drives this conversation. And if you are a prospective franchisee, make this part of your decision-making process, because you're going to get to hear the stories behind the brand. So I hope everybody has enjoyed it who has watched. So next week on the Franchise Show, which is our sister show, this is Tuesday, 23rd of July, 5:15 GMT. We are going to be discussing franchise operations manuals with the lovely Penny Hopkinson. So that's going to be a great conversation, a very valuable one for any prospective franchisors and franchisees, so you can understand the value of that document. And we have now come to the end of season 2 of Franchising Brand Stories. It's been an incredible season of stories. I've enjoyed these conversations greatly. Always a real learning and a real pleasure for me. We're going to be back for season 3 sometime early September. So please join us in September, Thursdays, 5:15 GMT, 12:15 EST. And until next time, take very good care, my friends. Take care. Cheers.